outside the Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent Jaime McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this side of the Pentagon, in an area of the Pentagon that has been recently renovated, part of a multi-billion-dollar renovation program here at the Pentagon. I could see parts of the airplane that crashed into the building, very small pieces of the plane on the heliport outside the building. The biggest piece I saw was about 3 feet long. It was silver and had been painted green and red, but I could not see any identifying markings on the plane. I also saw a large piece of shattered glass. It appeared to be a cockpit windshield or other window from the plane. When this plane hit the Pentagon this morning, according to the Pentagon spokesman Craig Quigley, the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld incredibly is described as having run out of his office and down to actually help some of the victims onto stretchers until he was ushered into the National Military Command Center, the secure nerve center or war room deep inside the Pentagon, where he remains at this time. Pentagon officials say he'll stay there for the time being. That is a place where all of U.S. intelligence comes in, and he has complete command with his commanders around the world. At the same time, the Pentagon has dispatched several warships out of port in Norfolk, including the the carriers USS George Washington and USS Kennedy. The ostensible reason for that, the movement of those ships and their escort ships, is to move them from more vulnerable positions. But the Navy says they'll also head some of the aircraft carriers up toward New York with the idea that they may be able to render some kind of assistance there, given the magnitude of the tragedy there. Back here, the fight goes on to put out the fire inside the Pentagon. The heat from that blaze was described as absolutely intense, and the number of casualties here has still not been released. Dozens of people were taken away in ambulances, and the Pentagon is still not releasing any figures on deaths. But clearly, people who had offices in that what is now a huge gaping hole in the side of the Pentagon, clearly there were some people killed in this tragedy. Judy?
Jamie, Aaron was talking earlier, one of our correspondents was talking earlier, I think it was Bob Franken, with an eyewitness who said it appeared that Boeing 757, the American Airlines jet, landed short of the Pentagon. Can you give us any better idea of how much of the plane actually impacted the building?
You know, it might have appeared that way, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon and then caused the side to collapse. Now, even though if you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you see that the floors have all collapsed, that didn't happen immediately. It wasn't until almost about 45 minutes later that the structure was weakened enough that all of the floors collapsed.
And Jamie, this happened, we're now able to reconstruct about 9:38 this morning. At that time, Jamie, what are we talking about? Dozens, hundreds of people at work in the building?
There are 24,000 people who work in this building, and most of them are at work at that hour of the morning. They were all evacuated from the building. In my office, which is sort of halfway between where this took place and the other side of the building, which is where the Defense Secretary's office is, eventually even the corridor I was in began to fill up with smoke just as I began to leave the building. But this was the prime time for an attack. However, it's not the prime location. Every time we've thought about what might happen if the Pentagon were subject of attack, we always assumed that the attack would come on the other side, the river entrance where the brass are. But this attack came on the side facing Arlington Cemetery.
All right, Jaime McIntyre, military affairs correspondent, and just to underline what we're seeing at the Pentagon, nothing on the scale of the devastation in New York City, where you have 2 entire towers of the World Trade Center collapsing, but still this has to be supposedly the most secure of secure buildings in Washington, D.C., and an commercial airplane flew right into it. So we are just, again, trying to get our minds around the magnitude of what these people have gotten away with.